Here we're going to talk about for loops. For loops are a great way to actually automate the creation of tables in HTML or anything that's going to be needed to be duplicated. It helps with databases. For and for each are two different statements. We'll talk about both of these. And while loops are also really good, and we'll talk about that as we move forward. But you can see here we have multiple boxes here that look the same. And then we have a different color box, and it's actually going to be printed out here 4 times. Let's take a look at the code. If we look at for loops inside about 45, the line number there, you're going to see the for statement, and you're going to have to enclose it in parentheses again. That's very important, otherwise it's not going to work. And then we have the curly brace. I often call it a bracket, but it really is a curly brace. That's the formal way of talking about it, a brace or curly brace. And let's see. What we need to do is have 3 different things here. I call them things, but there are 3 different little expressions in here that we need to take care of. And they're separated by semicolons like statements. Now when a for loop is executed, it's going to execute for the section of code over and over again as long as a condition is met. So I first has to be set to a value here, an initial value. And that's going to be 1. This variable is going to be local to this loop. It's a local variable to the loop. That's the scope. Now, oftentimes I, j, k, these are used specifically with your loops, your for loops. They're always incrementing things. You can use anything you want, but the word counter, for example, but most of the time you're using I, pretty standard. So we set that to a value of 1 to start it off. That's the beginning. Then it's a semicolon, space for clarity, and then we have $i is less than 5, which is the condition, the bound. As long as I is less than 5, we can do this over and over again. And to keep it from doing this forever, over and over again, we have an incrementer. And this is going to increment the value of I. $i plus plus just adds 1 to the value of I. It could be $i is equal to $i plus 1. It could also be minus minus. And that would be decrementing things, taking 1 off of I, going in the other direction. If we did that, then this would be an internal loop, infinite loop, because then I would never be greater than 5. We'll talk about that later. But what happens is, I starts at 1, it's incremented, and then it goes on to the next one. So what we'll do is, we're just going to echo out I,